Okay, this is going to be for my REST API evaluation. So basically what we're going to do here is we're going to talk about the API, which is the application programming interface. And this is just basically how one computer would talk to another computer, software talks to software, computer to server, server to server. It's just a way for two different entities to speak to each other, to talk to each other. So there wasn't really a standard for, I guess, APIs until REST, which is a representational state transfer, and this came out in late 90s, early 2000s, I think. It's something, I think Roy Fielding is the guy that had something to do with it. I'm not too like in depth on that, but so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna just show a couple examples of how to use an API and how to use like Ajax with jQuery, Ajax with JavaScript, and just regular JavaScript fetch. So the first thing we'll go into right now is let's just go ahead and do some JavaScript fetch, get, post, put, and delete. And that's what you're going to see here. So what we got going on here, this is my index that shows my setup. And then if we go into my JavaScript, is where I have set up all my functions or methods. So we have our get, and it's pretty much basically the same way. So you do your fetch, your URL, and then you're going to get your response, and you're going to turn your response into a JSON. Then you're going to take that JSON, and you can do whatever you need to with it, whether you want to go into it and pull different values or whatever it may be. And then you always have to have a dot catch at the end to make sure if there's any errors that you can do something with the error so you know what's going on. And that's a structure that you're going to use pretty much for all of them. There's just a couple of things that are different when you're doing post puts. So when you do a post, it's going to be the same structure URL, but in between the dot then, when you get your response, you're going to also be posting some sort of information, and you're going to take that, you're going to take a body, and what you want to do is, in order for it to post to this type of API, which is a JSON, you need to turn your data into a JSON, which is what we're doing here with JSON.stringify. It's going to take this data, turn it into a JSON. It's going to add headers so that it knows what everything needs to be. Like also in here, you could use like tokens for security, things like that. And then you're going to take that response and then you're going to turn it into JSON and you're going to console and make sure that it comes through and shows the response that it was accepted or put in a queue or whatever it's going to be doing with your post. Same thing with a put, but the only difference is with a put, you're going to have some sort of identifier, like right here. This is letting you know which ID you're going to be changing because a put is pretty much updating a certain field or a certain parameter inside the one of the data points. So if you're changing food to something else and you want to use the ID to make sure that it's changing the proper um, information. And then you're gonna do the same thing, get your response, and then you can get your JSON and console everything out that it shows that it changed. And then finally with delete, it's just a method delete. You're gonna put in here, you could have a variable which shows the which ID you're gonna be deleting, and that's deleting. And just to give you a little idea how it works, you got my console here, fetch.get. It's gonna call this URL and get all these posts. And then fetch.post is going to bring up a title. It's going to show me what we posted. And it shows that everything posted just fine. And then we're going to do a put, which is going to do an ID of a change. It's going to show you that it did with ID, and it should show you the new data. And then a delete. It's not a true API where we're calling, so it's not going to delete that post. But that's essentially how the JavaScript fetch works. And then what I did here was I did a little bit of mistake and went in and did some vanilla JavaScript with Ajax. And just so you can see a little example, it's almost the same way when it comes to structure. You've got your function, and then in that function, you're going to make an XML HTTP request. But when you do that, you're going to create this variable SHR, and you're going to open. Once you open this, you're going to tell the method and then where it's going to go, and then like the synchronous if it's true or not true. And then from there on load, you can run your functions and do what you need to do and execute send. Make another request. It's a get request. And with this Ajax 2, let's go to Ajax 3 here. See what we're doing here. So this, we're going to make a get call to the URL right here, right? And it's an asynchronous call. And what we're trying to get is these users. And we're going to make these users, we're going to turn it into, or parse it to JSON. That way we can get what we need from there. And if once you hit load users, you can see we did our output. We're going to put our users, login, avatar, and ID. And we're getting all that from this JSON response. This is with vanilla JavaScript. So let's go back down in here to this right here is our jQuery Ajax. So after we ready our document here, we're going to do some DOM, grab some elements here. We're going to on click on our button. We're going to first create our variable for comment count because I wanted multiple comments to already be loaded whenever we hit load more options. So that's what this is going to do. And this load is almost like a get. It's going to go to the PHP comment and it's going to pull these comments out. And down here, show you this right now. This is the same thing that's in our load comments. So once we hit this load comments.php, it's going to include our database. Then it's going to post the comment new count right here, which is actually, I think it's posting this query. So it's selecting all those, the names from the database that we made right here in our phpMyAdmin. And it's going to go through them with the rows and it's going to put out this new message. Well, this one on load comment, it's going to load double, but how I have it set up here is it's already got 2 in here, and I copy and pasted this to my load comments and I made it a function so that when you hit load comments, it's going to load 2 more names. It's not reloading these names. My databases, I just ended up putting a bunch of Jeremy's and new message, so it's like 4 or 5 of these different ones in there, and it's going to keep going on that new one because that's how I have it set up whenever I was testing out my functions. So if I do a refresh on this, you're going to see more Jeremy's go in there because it's going to be posting every time I refresh this Jeremy and new message. And then for the put comments, these are also sent as a post because I'm not sure on this. It took me a while to look this up and I couldn't find an actual default answer on why everything is post. But my idea is that once you submit it to PHP, the SQL query, you're posting the SQL query, and the SQL query is running what you need as a result. So if you look at all these, it's a post, but the SQL query that it's posting is actually something different. So that's my only guess is why they kept it as post to make it see, I guess because you're posting this SQL data and then pulling the data from that. That's my only guess as to why you don't use for these methods put, delete. It just only use post because I guess you're posting the SQL query. I showed, posting API responses and stuff onto the screen. The only thing I didn't really talk about was API keys and passwords. And a lot of the times what that's going to be is if you have like some sort of uh, if you have some sort of API, let's see, so I can give you an example like this API call. In front of here, you would have like a key and a password that you'd have to put in there, and that allows you to access the data within the API. A lot of times you'd put that in a .env or a server.env file, and then you'd create a function. You'd import that. I mean, you create the variables, import those variables into your uh, JavaScript, and then or your application, and then use those variables inside here instead of the actual passwords and the keys and stuff. And then along with the headers and stuff, you need to put tokens with certain APIs because if you're getting like a webhook where it's just getting a callback from like a automatic look search, then you're going to end up with you're going to need tokens to verify that you're getting the right information or the right information is being um, accessed. And then the only other thing is the HTTP error codes or response codes. You've got your 200s, which are like your good codes, 200 accepted, 201 post created, 202 is like it's been accepted, but it's like in a queue. It's could be waiting to be processed. Your 300s are like where your endpoints have moved either temporarily or permanently. 301 is perm. 302 is temp. 400 are like your errors, bad requests. 400, 401 unauthorized, bad API key. But this is where it doesn't recognize you, like you're not a user or somebody that's supposed to be in there. If you have 403, you have no access, but it knows who you are. So you're in the system, but you still don't have access, maybe due to API keys or passwords or something like that. 404 not found, and then if you try to